is on my legs.
Looks like my leg! No, it looks like I have icing in my legs, but I think it's just...
Cum?
Yes.
Gotcha.
All the cum in between my legs. Well, in light of our 1-year anniversary as a podcast, we thought that we would do the guide episode on... We didn't even walk you back. Oh my god.
It's been a minute.
Take motherfucking 2. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Society 97's YouTube channel. This is another episode of The Guide. It's crazy. Like we already said, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and it's actually been a year since the podcast. We actually realized that today.
We literally forgot that we put our podcast out over a year ago.
Yeah.
So we thought, what better guide episode than to give you how to make a podcast one-on-one, like the basics on how to start and do what we do and what we've been doing for the past year.
Yeah.
And kind of things that we've learned and little tips and tricks that we found helpful 9 months in that like you don't have to now figure out.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first thing that we would definitely say when you're starting your podcast is like kind of finding your why. Like, why do you want to do it? What's the purpose of your podcast? What content are you trying to bring to a certain audience, right?
Yeah.
So anything in marketing, you have to figure out your why.
Yeah.
So it's, are you trying to be a Criminal Minds podcast? Are you trying to be girl talk? Are you trying to be sports, movies? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing and why are you doing it? Because, I mean, there is, as you know, 1,000,001 podcasts out there. And, like, so why are people going to come to you instead of somebody else who's doing exactly the same thing? And so that's definitely really important to figure out your why. And once you do that, it's going to help you with all this other stuff that we're going to mention because you'll have more of, like, a pathway to getting there.
I would definitely say when finding your why too, once you realize, so say you really want to do like a Criminal Minds type podcast, go listen to other Criminal Minds type podcasts. Write down things you like, write down things you don't like, kind of figure it out so you can kind of figure out your flow and like what you want to do to tweak what they're already doing.
Right.
Because you're not recreating the wheel with any podcast you make at this point.
Every idea, I feel like it already exists out there. So figuring out what you like about what they do, using that to help influence what you do, and then also fixing the things that you don't like and offering your audience something different that they can't get somewhere else is really important. And it's definitely taken us a while to getting there, but I feel like we've finally kind of gotten into the groove of things, and knowing that at the front would have been really important.
Yeah, we for sure had an understanding of where we wanted to take the podcast and what we wanted to do, and we always wanted to be like real, like elevated girl talk, but we didn't really know how to get there at first.
Right.
And it did take us a while, and I think we did research based off of like podcasts that I listened to, ones that you already have, but we could have definitely dove in deeper in the beginning, and that's one regret that I think we both kind of have, because it kind of took us 9-10 months to figure it out, you know? So like know up front what you want to do, and that's going to give you a better like understanding of your audience, your style. Like are a lot of those podcasts interview style podcasts, or are they just conversation, or are they by themselves? Do you like that? Do you not like that? It's going to kind of narrow down all of those things for you rather than just being like, let me just pick up a mic. Finding your name. Figure out a name that you want to have for your podcast.
This is probably one of the hardest parts.
Yes. And we say it's one of the hardest, even though this is probably one of the easiest for Emily and I.
Yeah.
We were probably only like 3 names and we said great. But what I will say is when you do pick a name, I know a lot of people that have podcasts and their podcasts are the same name as other podcasts that are already out there. So you don't really want to have a name that's everybody else is using, because you're kind of just going to get thrown into the mix of them.
Yeah, even like if it's not fully the same name but has similar words and you guys exist in the same market, I would stray away from that as much as possible, because chances are if somebody's looking for you, it's going to be a harder time to find you if you share the name and similarities as things that already exist. So definitely take your time, figure out what you like, and like we said earlier, do the market research, see what's out there, type it into Google, see what pops up on the
Go to Google, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify Podcasts, go to iHeartRadio, like legitimately go to those apps and those websites, but also Google it.
Yeah, because I will say what we've done now, we've trademarked our name, and we've also established an LLC in our name. without in the past looking to see if those legal documents already existed. So I will say if long term your plan for this thing is to turn it into a business, to start making some revenue off of it, definitely do all that research in the beginning, because you don't want to build your podcast, have this name, 10 months down the line you decide to trademark or to start a business and that name's already taken. That would really suck. So definitely, we looked out somehow. Nobody had it. But
we did, because we did look it up.
Right.
We did make sure that it wasn't a company, and there is a sticker company that has a very similar name to ours, but we're not in the same realm, so we could still use it. That could have been sticky as well. Exactly. So you just never know. But also, you want to be different from everybody else on the platform. If somebody goes to look up Society 97, our podcast is going to come up 100% of the time. Versus if you had something that was just more, I don't want to say bland, but it's just overused.
And it's very much like a word or a phrase that people are using for a big realm of things. Whereas like a name that's more niche is going to be a lot easier to find you.
100%. Because you want them to be able to find your podcast, not scroll through 15 other ones till they get to yours, but chances are they're going to stop at somebody else's first.
Yeah.
That's just that. All right, on to step number 2.
Real step number
your
2.
Equipment.
Yeah. This is definitely where you're going to be spending probably the most of your money.
Yeah, and you can, honestly, there's equipment for all budgets.
Totally.
To be completely honest, and this is where everyone, I think, a lot of people say that, everybody can have a podcast, because you can literally you can do it on your phone.
You can make a voice memo and put it out there.
You really can. So you can have your, your phone that you're with every single day, record a podcast on it, to buying equipment, having a studio, making it feel a lot more legit in the back end.
It's up to what you're wanting out of it and your end goal for
exactly.
everything.
So one thing I think that everyone thinks of podcasts is microphones. Our suggestion would definitely be to get an XLR microphone.
Yeah.
The capability for that, because that allows you to get an interface.
Yeah, an audio interface. So essentially it is like a device that is outside of your computer, and you plug the mic into that, and that will allow you to adjust the audio levels outside of your computer, and you can also audio monitor through that, and then that plugs into your computer. This is going to give you like the cleanest, most crisp, most I feel like accurate to true sounding
We
audio.
have experienced through our process that the interface is actually like where you want to spend your money.
Yeah.
We have a very good interface. I'll pop it up here. And our microphones are $75 off Amazon by Audio-Technica.
Yeah, they're nothing like crazy expensive. It's really that interface that makes the audio sound as good as it does.
The interface also allows for you to connect multiple microphones onto the same loop track, which is important while editing.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely, if you're wanting your audio to sound really good and really crisp, I would invest in this portion of your equipment. Invest in that interface. It's going to make a big deal. But if you're maybe tighter on budget, but you still want to use mics, there are tons of USB capable mics that are also really good. You can plug them directly into your computer and just record that way.
So there's different ways that you could record your podcast. We record ours on QuickTime. It's a software that's already in Mac computers.
Yes.
So you don't have to download anything extra. You don't have to worry about viruses or anything like that when downloading. It's not, you don't got to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's right there. So that's what we use is QuickTime. There's other platforms you can use. So if you don't have a Mac, you could use Audacity, which is something you can download. It's free. It's free download from the internet.
Yeah.
It's going to allow you to edit right in the platform as well. So like if you are in Audacity, you can still edit and you can do everything in there, which is a benefit.
Yeah,
You can record, you can edit, and you can export all in the same place. That's a benefit to it. You get what you pay for, and it's free. There's that.
You can even do like a lot of computers, you can download like voice memo apps as well and literally just record onto that. If you're recording on your phone, there is a ton of things that you can record onto that. I don't know. I would just check out and see what's out there. QuickTime just works for us because we both are Mac users, and It's easy. It converts it into the audio file format that we need when we are editing it. So as long as you have something that can convert your audio into an MP3, you're good to go.
Yes. The other option would be to go through Anchor, which is already like a platform that can hold your IP address for your podcast. So that's later in this, we're going to talk about it. But yes, Anchor you could record right into. I think this is optional, headphones. A lot of like big time podcasters, like if you watch Impulsive, they use headphones. Personally, we don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Headphones are great if you are doing virtual interviews, if you are doing recording with a lot of people, or maybe your room is a little bit bigger and you guys haven't checked your audio levels. It's great if you have, for me and Kellen, we both have very different levels of which we talk at, so she's a little bit louder than I am, but because we have our interface, we've kind of already adjusted all of that, so we don't need to constantly monitor our audio. But if we did, I would use headphones. We just don't really need it, so it's kind of up to you if you want to use headphones or not. It's definitely not,
you don't have to. So the next thing you're going to have to decide on is what host platform you want to use.
Yeah.
And in 2022 you have options.
Yeah.
You really, really do have options. Now, there's a lot of media companies that are the host platform and that you probably have heard of, like a Barstool or Dear Media, or our personal favorite, TMG. Sign us. But like
for all the little people out there, we have to go through like a third-party platform.
Correct. Somewhere has to hold your IP address, basically.
Yeah, and another thing called like an RSS feed, which is kind of the direct link between these hosting sites and where your podcast then goes out to all of the apps that hold it. So essentially, you're gonna have to pick one. There's a lot that are free, depending on what you want to do. If you're doing weekly episodes that are maybe longer form, the free option might not be great for your format because a lot of those have limits on how much hours of content you can put out per month or how often you can post on them. So you probably will end up paying for a membership if that's kind of more what you're wanting. For us personally, we pay a year fee and it's under $200. I think it's like around $140 a year. And with that, we get unlimited postings, unlimited time, and it can go out to any podcast platform.
So under these platforms, you go and you set up through Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You don't have to be on every platform, or you can be, and that's the fun part about this. So Emily,
decide where your podcast goes.
Exactly. So Emily's the one who uploads our podcast. She uploads it to our Podbean account, and then at midnight, it automatically goes out to every single platform we have decided we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. I'm sure there's different ways you could do it and upload to separate accounts. Why would you want to do that when you have a place that can do it all for you? Also, then it shows your analytics for us. Since we do pay for it on the business side, we get to see who is listening, how many listeners we have per week, per month, total of the episode, where they're listening from, all that kind of stuff, which is a lot of fun to kind of see and like watch it grow and get all that kind of stuff. But then there's also places like Buzzsprout. You can do it as like a free version, like Emily was saying, it's only so much time per month, or you can pay for a version for them. And then there's also Anchor, which a lot of people do know and listen to a lot of bigger platformed podcasts through Anchor. And theirs is actually 100% free. Again, you can record through there, you can edit through there. It is a really good platform if you're starting out for a podcast because it's straightforward, it's really basic, and it's all in one place. So honestly, it is a really good platform. I'm sure that there's paid options for it too, but those are just some suggestions that we would have. When you do pick a host platform though, you do need to have art. So make sure, honestly, we use Canva. Canva's great.
They have a free version too, which allows you to have access to a shit ton of stuff. I think
you can even do the free trial for a month.
So like you can make your art on Canva for free and have access to everything if you want to do the free month or whatever. But you're gonna have to make some sort of graphic, and that's essentially like the album cover that is going to be displayed when people find your show.
And on Canva, they actually already have a setting where you can type into their search bar, podcast art. It's going to come up with the exact sizing that you need. But if you are creating it on your own, as far as Apple Podcasts go, there's a lot of standards to how Apple will accept your podcast and your art and all of that kind of stuff. So make sure you go to Apple and figure that out, because they change it all of the time.
Yeah, it's updating all the time.
Well, how we did it, it's not the same way you're going to do it. So make sure you go to Apple and figure that out. But their standard sizing is anywhere from 1400 by 1400 pixels, max 3000 to 3000. So anywhere between there is what your art has to be in order for Apple to accept it. Yeah. And honestly, if Apple doesn't accept it, it won't be accepted.
It won't be posted there. Yeah. And so definitely for that, recommendations, have your name pretty large on it so people can see and identify it. And then we started off with a graphic that we created, like a logo, and we recently changed it to a photo of us. It works for us because we are a conversation style podcast, so we want people to know who we are, what we look like, who they're speaking to.
Yeah.
If you're more of a storytelling, I don't think it really matters as much. You could maybe make it a little bit more artsy, but that's just another thing to think of.
Definitely put colors in there that would be like a good reference to your vibe, your style, who you are as a podcast. Also, keep it pretty basic, because it's gonna be in different formats. It's gonna be small, it's gonna be big. So a lot of words, not really great. A lot of design in the background, not really great, because you want to be able to present well at all different sizes.
Yeah.
So kind of keep that in mind as well. But also you want it to be recognizable. You want people to be able to scroll past and know exactly who it is and what they're listening to when they see it come up every single week or every single month when you post your podcast. So you want it to be something that's quick, easy, recognizable. Yeah. Yeah. So on to the next topic of conversation, and that is editing your podcast. And this is where Emily gets to take over.
Yeah, so editing you can make it as difficult as you want to make it. It honestly doesn't need to be something that's hard. Luckily, with the way that we do our podcast, it's very much unfiltered. So in terms of cutting things out, we don't really do any of that. The only thing that we'll ever cut out is if we mention somebody's name and we want to take that away. So editing for us is really simple. So because of that, if we wanted, we could have used, honestly, probably our phones to do it. There's a ton of free editing software online. And then Kellen mentioned earlier, there are some hosting platforms that have editing built into them. Those are all great options if you're looking for something inexpensive and easy.
And also if you have to plan to have a more unfiltered styled podcast.
Totally.
Because you wouldn't have to be, doing a whole lot. Now, if you are going to have a filtered style podcast based on, your brand, you might want to invest in some software that can kind of help piece it together and make it just sound a lot nicer overall.
Yeah, and you don't want to have harsh cuts. And so I would recommend just watching some YouTube tutorials on how to edit. That's going to save you a lot of time learning all of the
keys and commands.
Yeah, exactly. So all the shortcuts and everything. But also in terms of what software works for you, we both have experience in the Adobe Suite. So we are using Premiere Pro to edit our show, and Premiere Pro is typically a video editing software. But because our show is also in video format, that's why we went with that platform. But if you did want to use something that was only audio, Premiere also has 2 different platforms for that, After Effects and can't think of the other one. But you could also just purchase those if you don't want to have any video. But Premiere Pro works for us because of that. And I will say one other tip. When you're editing, a lot of times when you record your audio, it's going to be in what's called stereo format, which means if you have 2 mics, each mic is only going to be either in the right side of your headphone or the left, or if you're only on one mic, it's only going to be on one. So make sure that you modify that to mono so it plays both at the same time. I learned that after the first podcast I ever edited, and it went out and it was in 2 different ears, and I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I mean, trial and error right there.
Yeah.
Other places you can go if you have a Mac, again, you have GarageBand, that's an option. You can record in there, you can edit in there. It just comes again with your Mac, so that's already a software that's already there. Audacity can also be edited in there, and you can also do everything you need to in there.
Yeah,
So
and just when you export it, it just needs to be an MP3 file, and then from there you can upload it onto your hosting website, and it should be good to go.
So there's a lot of free options, but there's a lot of paid options. Again, you get what you pay for.
Totally.
Also, what's the goal of your podcast? Do you want to build a business out of it, or do you just kind of want to have it for friends? Business out of it, or do you just kind of want to have it for friends?
Fun, for your friends.
So do it. All right, last and final step of your podcast. Now, it's out, people can listen to it, you have your art, you know what you're doing, you have a flow, but how are people gonna know about it?
Right.
Social media. Social media is the biggest place in order to get traction from people outside of your circle. So we specifically use TikTok, that's been a saving grace.
Yeah.
Instagram Reels are massive. Video content is what people want to consume now. So like Emily mentioned, we do a video version of our podcast, but that's because we also want to put out video content on social media platforms. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
That's completely up to you. But that's just what people want to consume today. So a little part of, what you're going to promote yourself as, video content.
Yeah, there you go. I will say we were really not wanting to hop on that for a long time, just because it's a lot of work. Recording on video on top of the audio and clipping clips for socials and posting. It turns into something that was initially very easy, which is recording the podcast and putting the podcast out, into a lot more work. But if we would have never taken that step, we would never have been able to reach the audience that we have reached now because of apps like TikTok and our Instagram Reels. So we're definitely still very, very low in terms of what we want to make it to, but that growth in and of itself would have never existed without posting videos.
In this full year, it all came from video version, video content.
Totally.
To be completely honest with you. So a couple closing remarks and things that we have learned along this year, which has been so valuable, and it's been so fun, and it's been very frustrating. It's been very monotonous and time consuming, and there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad with this whole year of making a podcast. Neither of us regret it, and we're excited to keep going.
Yeah,
100%. And actually, we talk about all the time how we can add to it and everything like that. So one thing for us, you kind of already mentioned, is a lot of trial and error. The way we started our podcast, episode 1, is not the way episode 54 is about to be this week.
Yeah.
Not the same. One, we're more comfortable behind the mics, we understand each other's flow, but also we found out what works best as far as consumer wanting to know. We started it out in very basic podcast format. That just didn't work for us.
Yeah, we definitely went into it thinking we were going to go one direction, and then realizing, we changed the format of our show 5 times, and I think we're finally at a place where we're okay, this is it, we love it, this is how we want it to be. It's taken us a year to get there, so don't be scared to change the format. Don't, shy away from it because you don't know. If it flops, just try something else the next time. Yeah.
Pivoting, and that's, honestly, that's just a business, advice. Be okay with pivoting, because you're gonna have to, or every day.
Yeah.
How our style was 2 months ago is not our style today, and that's completely okay. And also YouTube has a lot to do with our style and how we're doing everything, because we have a lot more availability of speaking to you guys and the outreach because of YouTube. So that has also helped us a lot. Results are very slow.
Yeah.
You are not going to be an overnight internet success when it comes to being a podcaster.
No.
Do not think that you're going to retire in a year because you made a podcast. If you want to be famous off a podcast, try a different way.
Yeah, you will.
Maybe try booty pictures.
Yeah.
That's probably so much faster.
Honestly, and this goes back to kind of what we said earlier with the unless you post about it, nobody's gonna know about it. So if you are not currently famous already on social media or whatever, nobody's gonna fucking listen to your show for a really long time. And that's okay. I mean, we literally had, I don't know, 8 months of really nobody giving a fuck about what we were posting. We just pretended like we had millions of listeners.
Yes.
You know, and we still do that. We don't have anywhere close to what we want. We're grateful for what we have, but we always are wanting to have
to grow.
more.
Yeah.
And that growth took a very, 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 very long time. So don't get discouraged. Don't compare yourself to other people, and especially don't to people who are already internet famous, because you're never going to get the type of traction and the type of recognition of what you're doing at the speed that they are, because they already have those followings.
Right, like we were talking about this earlier when we were prepping for this, and like she was saying, Tana Mojo only has a podcast that's successful because she's Tana Mojo.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tana Mojo has zero reason to have a podcast.
Yeah.
But people listen because of who she is. So remember that. Give yourself a lot of grace in this process.
Totally.
A lot of grace. And maybe have a good friend that like you can cry to some days when you both are frustrated.
Yeah.
Also a very valuable thing, because there's been times throughout this whole year where like there's moments where I've been like, I don't know if we can do this anymore. Like I'm frustrated that I don't see anything, blah, blah, blah. And then there's moments, Emily's had that as well. But having each other has allowed it to still be where it is and continuously grow. And like, we don't want to let either of each other down, which is a good thing to like have. But anyway, moving on. No money will really be made when making like, if you think that you're about to be racking it in.
Yeah, I was reading the other day, and honestly, until you're getting about 50,000 downloads per episode per month, you're probably not going to be getting any sponsorships.
Yeah.
Hence why we have no commercials on our show.
Yes.
So don't get mad about it. This isn't about money. Podcasting in general, I think it can turn into that when you start doing other things. Hate to break it to you, but we are both still working our day jobs for a reason. So yeah, you're gonna put a lot of money in.
You're gonna put, and honestly, you can put as much.
You don't
or
have
as little,
to.
Yeah, put as much or as little money as
Totally.
you want into it, because it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, there's even articles that I've read that only like top podcasters, now obviously taking away like Alex Cooper because it's a whole different ball game. But like previously, based off just sponsorships, like $30,000 a month is insane. But that is like your top podcasters.
Right.
That is not like your middle, like run of the mill type podcasters. So, you know, it does take a while. You're not going to be famous off of it. You're not going to make a ton of money off of it. And you have the potential to.
Yeah.
But don't think that it's your end all be all. What really will be is like using TikTok and using other platforms.
I was about to say
posting
that.
on YouTube and like kind of just creating a hype around all different
Social
platforms.
media at large, not necessarily just having
Just
podcasts.
podcasting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's basically our advice, or our just like what we've learned and what's worked for us with starting a podcast. One thing we didn't mention was music. So make sure that whenever you're picking a theme song, there's quite a few rules about copyright laws in that. So you may have to buy music, or maybe you have a friend that can make you something original. That would be cool too. But definitely make sure that you're reading the fine print and all of that, because I would hate for you to put something out and edit it and love it, and then it gets flagged and your show gets taken down.
And you might not be flagged now, but if it ends up becoming something, they're gonna want their money.
Yeah.
So they're gonna come back at you. So yeah, definitely copyright. We found ours off of a website that's copyright free. We do pay for it because you have to, but it's still copyright free.
And
even McDonald's
is using it.
McDonald's is now using our songs.
So clearly we did something right with that one.
There you go. There you go. Podcasting 101. It can be as complicated as you want it to be. It can be as easy as you want it to be. Honestly, at the end of the day, just have fun with it.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, don't do it.
You're making a podcast to most likely speak to people who are like-minded of you in some sort. So make sure you remember, like, act like you're talking to your friends. Have fun with it. Laugh a lot when you do it. Cry a lot when you do it. It's going to be a fun, exciting, frustrating process.
Yeah. And
But it's
this
rewarding.
is just to let everybody know, anybody can make a podcast.
For all of our TikTok boy comments, anybody can make podcasts.
And now we're telling you how.
So there you go, Brian.
Good luck, Connor.
There you go, Zach.
Have fun, Dustin. Can't wait to hear your show.
We can't wait. It's going to be about boys drinking beer on a Saturday.
Yep, and their hatred towards women.
Well, Justin, good luck. That's another episode. I'm just kidding. Anyway, go and watch the rest of our YouTube videos. It's a lot of fun to make. We make vlogs and the guy videos every other Tuesday, and then we do the video version of the podcast every single Friday. Bye!